Hello there, it's Lonnie with One Blessed Step. I wanted to share with you my experiences with getting laid off, and it was a really hard time for me, for our family, and you're going to see another video from Tracy that's going to take from her perspective, but I wanted to share how I processed through it, um, and you know, and how we kind of got through it together over time. But I wanted to give you guys the feeling of what it's like, so that if and when this happens to you, you can have a better plan, better approach, and it hopefully won't shock you as much as it did me and Tracy. So let me give you a little background. I'm an engineer, and I've always been an engineer, and went through college, got all my education, got a job, and promoted pretty quickly through there. I had a knack for going and finding business, and so it was like a consulting engineering job. And I prided myself in doing great work, and moved up into management, and was really building kind of a group that I could trust and I could count on. And we got around 2006, 2007. That was kind of the start of that, the great financial time when things kind of got really bad, and things started to get a little tight from a business perspective, and had to hustle a little more. And came 2008, and we were really in it, and we had to lay off people. And it was really the first time that as a manager, as a department manager of, I mean, there's almost 30 people, that anywhere in my career up until that point, that I had to actually lay people off. And we did it pretty regularly through 2008, and it was not fun. We did it one or two a month, trying to find a foothold. All along, I felt I was being representative of the company, but also looking out for the team members we had, and so as we got to the end of the year, well, let's say like middle of the year, Tracy's got more intuition than I do, and I have probably an ego and pride challenge, certainly when it comes to my job, and I think at that point I'm way too trusting of my employer, knowing that they always had my back, and that they had hired me for this position, and up until that point they were giving me all signs of encouragement. But Tracy started talking about, it's like, hey, this is not looking good, and we probably need to start thinking about something else. And me being Lonnie, I brushed her off, and to the sense of saying, oh, I'm fine, I'm confident my job's good. And so I just kind of moved forward. Obviously, layoffs continued that I had to implement, and they started. Not that any of them felt good, but these became the people that, you know, were the ones I really counted on, and was hoping that through this time and carry through, and then we rebuild our group. Because that's what you always want to think, right? Is that you are a part of something, and that if you have to adjust, you're going to come out stronger on the other end. And so it came to, gosh, it was near the end of the year, and everyone was, we were down to a skeleton crew. I mean, geez, there was, I don't know, from 28 to 5 or 6 of us, and so it was pretty bleak. And Tracy at that point had already implemented a bunch of contingency plans, because that's what we do. We are always risk mitigators. But I was certainly still somehow focused on the fact that my company was going to stand up for me and carry me through, and that we retool and be stronger on the other end. So we went on Christmas break, and through that time it was just very stressful, trying to tell myself that things were going to be better. It was going to be a better year. That 2009 was just going to be a much better year. The hard part's gone, and so when it came back at the beginning of the year, I mean, like beginning of the year, like January 3rd or somewhere around there, like the first working day after the first of the year, came in, and my supervisor asked me to come up, and it's like boom, I was laid off. And you know, I didn't even know how to process it. And you know, Tracy wasn't working. We had implemented a plan where she was not supposed to work. She had worked very hard through her career, and she had taken care of our boys, and I just didn't want to continue to I didn't want her to have to work. And so I'd made her a promise that she didn't have to, and then here we are. I'm pushed up against the wall that I'm probably gonna have to break that promise. And Tracy, being Tracy, she's obviously already got plans in motion. But that was a hard day, a very hard day. So I called her, and in God's grace, obviously, she had been planning all along and been pushed all along to try to get a job. And on that day I got laid off, she got an interview and subsequently got that job. But what a mixture of emotions that was, when it was kind of very raw and at the same time a glimmer of hope. But I didn't know how to process this. I'd never not had a job, never been laid off. And so this was all new to me. It felt like an immediate sign of failure for me. So that day they were like, you know, it's like, you gotta, you know, this is it. It was that day. They told me, and then I left, and they wanted to do a bunch of other stuff, and I was like, man, I've got to go get a job. I can't worry about your business. And that was the moment, when I reflect back, that's the moment. And it took a long time for me to reflect back, but that was the moment when I realized that you're an employee, regardless of what you think. You're an employee, and you know, I moved up the corporate ladder in that company, and but you're still an employee, and they're still a business, and so they still got to make money. And so it was the day that I had certainly didn't realize it then, and it probably took me a year, maybe two, to realize that it was a shift of mindset, that I was an employee, and when a company gets to the point that they can't make the business part of it work, they've got to do what businesses do. So it was tough. So I got home, and Tracy could just see it on my face, and she'd probably see it on my face for the last 3, 4, 5 months. I mean, just because it's hard laying people off and setting them out in the course of that time was like, it wasn't the beginning of it, so there weren't like new jobs lined up, and some people were getting jobs that they were subsequently laid off again because it was just a company trying to make it work, but they couldn't. And so I was laid off, and my ego was toast. I was definitely beaten down. Tracy was the rock, obviously always there to support. I don't think I talked a lot to my family and such. Just, I don't know. I don't know. I had maybe pride in that too, that I didn't want to admit to them and go through that all. So I kept it in. And so it took me maybe a week. And that was kind of like, we sat down. Tracy's like, you know what? Take a week to process this, and, you know, let your feelings set. But after a week, I gotta get, you got to get back on the horse. You got to go start, do something. And so that was the plan. The day after, I woke up and I don't think I thought it was real. I thought it was just something in my imagination. But I was there, no job. I don't know certainly by that time, Tracy hadn't got a job. I think she was prepping for an interview, and everything was just, you could just feel the weight. And I encourage you just that it is daunting. It's a lot, when you're the breadwinner and you want to support your family, and then when you don't, you don't feel whole. But I'd just, encourage you in those moments, though, to lean on your support structure. And Tracy was my support structure, and she was there for me forever, for everything that we went through. And so I took my week, and then I had to figure out what to do. And so I made a plan. And so that's what you got to do. You got to like look at this thing and say, okay, well, now what? And so first off, I go through it, and I'm looking for stuff that's familiar, because number one, I've never done this before. Only time I've changed jobs is I've changed because it's a promotion opportunity. It wasn't because I had to prove myself again. I was getting it because someone wanted to hire me, and they wanted me in their business, in their company. And so I had to make a plan on how to sell this, how to pitch this to people I don't know. But you have to do it. And so I kind of came up with a schedule and a process of just applying to everything I can. At first, it was probably companies I was familiar with, contacts that I had, reaching out to anybody that I knew, because I certainly had a lot of contacts, but the industry was across the board was hit. I mean, there was just no jobs. Everyone was reeling and trying to deal with this. And so I probably that first couple weeks, I was just trying to get a feel for what was out there in my field, like in engineering and in civil engineering, and like the stuff I do, and it's even more to like the land development stuff that I did. So something I could jump into. Certainly was probably feeling that, I still wanted to be compensated something close, because I'd worked so hard for that. And that's a hard one to process, because it's, the market, the industry was totally changing. And to think, that they were going to pay me what I was getting, I felt like I earned it, but these are new people to me. So I got a couple of interviews there, but they were far and few between, because they were all laying people off, so they certainly weren't in a position to hire people. And I think around probably the second or third week, I started getting a little more, put some framework and structure to it, and started tracking everything that I was doing, because I was trying to remember who I'd applied to and who was responding and not. So I think part of making that plan is being diligent with your time, because you can really get sucked in there trying to figure this all out. And I think part of what was really hard here was, you go through the work to find the job or the listing, the posting, and then you put your resume, make sure it's right there, your cover letters impeccable, and you send it off, and then nothing. And you definitely start questioning your worth, and like, why aren't they responding, and putting all these things in your head, and it's not healthy. So I'd encourage you guys to just track this. If some, so if you're in my position, in this position, this is 15 years ago, and things have definitely changed. But you know, um, a time will come again, I'm sure, that or market sectors change, and someone needs to hear this. So I started getting very regimented in tracking it. And there's only so many jobs. At some point, you get 3 weeks of this in, and you've kind of gotten caught up on everything. And some jobs have been filled, or a lot of them were posted and were never filled. So then they were just dropped off. And so I just really tried to process that. But I was still missing a lot in myself, in how to process this and still feel like I had value. My family was there. They were obviously going through this too, but it was hard for me to address that because my primary goal was to get a job, because that's how I would solve it. I wanted to solve it. I didn't want to just sit and seep in what we were in and just address that, because that to me was a sign of failure. I think my mindset's changed a lot about that over the years, but I had to go through this process, and so I started to do stuff around the house. Not that I wasn't like right away, but certainly, but I started like doing some projects, and I've got to do things with my hands, and so I started doing some house improvement stuff. Once Tracy did get her job, I was taking the kids to school and whatever their extracurriculars were, trying to, help where I could. But I started getting a regimen going, and that certainly pulled me out of that darkness of not feeling any value, because I was contributing, and so I thought that was important. And it really did help me through that, because I think in the end, I don't think I finally got my job until April. So there's 3 months and change of going through this process. And that was certainly, there weren't a lot of jobs on there. So it was really me going through jobs that were kind of available. So after kind of going through the jobs I kind of wanted, I started looking at what can I do, and and still hadn't reached the point where I was being truthful in this situation. And I think it's important is to acknowledge it, and don't take it as failure. But I mean, you got to support your family, and your family needs you, and so you got to go get a job. And I think somewhere around that time, I was starting to broaden, and Tracy had said, just try to get a job, and so broaden what I could get, what kind of jobs. And we lived in Arizona. We tried to keep everything in Arizona, because I don't think we were quite ready to do a move, and so we tried to keep everything there. And so at that point, we're still looking at jobs in Arizona, and started looking at things that weren't engineering, but I could do and could add value and could see some growth. We had to grasp, though, that there was a possibility, because this was probably in the second month, of we might have to move, because I wasn't getting any jobs. I got a couple interviews, but everyone was still, I mean, it was still going. I mean, people were still getting laid off, so it wasn't like over. And I was, so everyone was still reeling. Every company and business was still reeling, and they weren't prepared to hire people. And so they were interviewing, but they were just kind of fishing and looking for opportunities. And when maybe things changed, then they would call back. My dad actually had a contact that I knew too, indirectly, but he introduced me to him, and there just happened to be a position in the local in Arizona, but it had some lead time to it, and so I started the groundwork of that. Had great conversations. Thought it looked great. I think there were concerns because from internally on their side, because I was at such a different salary level than what this job was offering, that they were reluctant. And I think a lot of people had this problem, that they just viewed that the moment things changed, that the people would go back. And so I definitely had to kind of explain to them my story and everything I've just told you here, on like how it just really it set with me wrong, and I couldn't go back to that and be truthful and honest about it, and feel the same way and perform the same way. And it's just I was a different person at that point, different engineer, and I wanted to do things differently. Meantime, still had to apply for more jobs, because they probably had it was probably a 2-month process for them just to kind of get through their whole thing. And so I applied for more jobs, and I started getting to the point where I had job interviews for stuff like on the East Coast, and I couldn't, we were 3-4 months in, I couldn't not consider it. But Tracy and I had sat down, and I think another, a big thing is this will be a process. If you're in an extended layoff, like, you're going to have more than just like you get laid off and the next week you have a job. If you got to process through this, you're gonna have good days and bad, and you need to lean on your support. And Tracy was always there for me, and so we started making a plan for what if I had to get a job out of state, and what that would look like, and we were legitimately considering it as a possibility, because you don't know the path that's planned for you, but it's always good. And you have to be strong enough to consider it, because if you just dismiss it, you're going to miss something. And I didn't want to miss it. I think what taught me real well about this was the events that had happened within the prior 6 months, is going through all that, is that, it's tough, but there's a reason for everything. And looking back, this was a pivotal point in our life. Everything from Tracy and I's relationship, my relationship with my boys, our family, our finances, everything was pivoted at this point. But I wouldn't change it. It was a tough time. It was. But persevered. We are who we are now because of the stuff that we went through. And it was tough. It was still tough. So ultimately, sometime in April, I think it was like mid-April, I got the job, and it started. And although, it was nice, benefits, Tracy was working too, so we could finally start feeling like we weren't buried. But, there was a lot of things. And, we have a family of 4. We had some blessings on our mortgage that kicked in because I was laid off, so that was really nice. But that first year, I would say, even after I started, it was, I think I was still, I was mid-30s. I could see God's plan in it, but to the point of like what I was still feeling after all that. No one expects you just to be over and flip a switch. We're human, and it took me a bit. I think I was very spiteful at the people that laid me off. I didn't do anything rash or anything like that. I think at one point they may have were in the area or something, and we had lunch, and I shared my feelings with him. Nice guy, and he was, he didn't want to do it, obviously. I mean, I guess I say obviously, but it was just down the road. Just like when I was laying off, I didn't want to be laid off, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. But over time, probably by year 2 or 3, I'd processed it to a point that I was truly trying not to think or worry about it, because, I'm in a place, and I got to start experiencing this great job, and I'm still in this job. It's 15 years, 15 and change this year. It's been 15 years, and it's the best job I've been in. I'm now blessed with like the best supervisor boss I've ever had. I trust him as an engineer, as a person, and I value his input, and it's a great place. I do great work, and I'm recognized for it. It's provides more value, and so. But anyways, I think after year 2, after that, I had realized that I had been blessed. That this job was what I needed, what our family needed, provided me more time with my boys, with my wife, and allowed us to just move forward. The whole process of 2008, laying those people off, put me in a tailspin health-wise. I was not doing good. I hate to think what I would be if I had continued down that path and somehow struggled through that. Certainly wouldn't be in the position I am today. 15 years later, I'm 50 now, so trying to, visualize it, I'm healthier now, and it was very noticeable once I got into my new job. And my work-life balance was better, and my health just immediately changed, and so I could see that that job was literally killing me. And so, to all those out there that are going through this, concerned about it coming, you have a support group. It's tough. It's going to be a journey, but everything that happens for a reason, and God's got a plan for you. And I just encourage you to not over worry. I mean, that was certainly something I was doing, and I didn't sleep very well for a while. And so, but know that there's a time, and there's a plan, and there's a direction for you always. Through our whole time here on this planet, there's a plan for you. And you just need to be diligent enough and be willing enough to take, one blessed step at a time. I mean, it's kind of what our channel's about, but I mean, it was really just being confident that the next step is going to be the right one for the time, and where it goes after that, you have to be confident. So I hope this helps. I hope this gives someone some comfort if you're in this now. Please let us know if you've been through a layoff, and if there's been anything specifically that I didn't mention that really helped you. Please let us know in the comments. If you want to hear more about this, or kind of like what it looked like after, let us know in the comments too, and we'd certainly be able to expand on that. And it's this whole process was was scary. It was scary. Most scared I've probably been since like taking my first son home, and then obviously probably, well, I don't know if it's as scary as my second's birth and time in the hospital, but that's a whole another channel, or not another channel, but another video. But it was scary, and just know you're not there alone, and that you will get through it. So thank you guys for hearing me out, and if you could give us a like and a subscribe, just so we kind of know that you're listening out there. So bye.